7. So we're going to see where that goes to. Han Lien.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us this evening, Han Lin.
Thank you.
We'll see how long it takes for us to get up to critical mass here this evening. We have Robert Freeman, our speaker, is with us here this evening, so we'll wait till we get a few more people on, and then we can do introductions, and then we have some announcements and introductions, and so forth. So we see that we're getting a few more people on. Good evening, Stans.
Hi.
On which club are you with?
I'm with Milpitas.
I'm sorry?
Milpitas?
Aha. Oh, I'm not a Rotarian.
You're not, okay.
I'm not. What is the extent generally of 5170? Is it like Silicon Valley, more or less?
Goes down as far as Gilroy, that neck of the woods, and as far over into the East Bay as the Tri-Valley, Livermore,
Really?
Pleasanton, Dublin, down picks up Cupertino, Saratoga. So that's the general range of it.
That's very diverse, actually. I mean, all the way from the West Valley to the East Bay to, like you said, Tri-Valley.
Yeah.
Well. And Stans, you're with Palo Alto Club?
Yeah, I just changed it because whenever I'm on the call, it's always helpful to see what the club people are with.
Oh, yeah. I lived in Palo Alto for 36 years.
Oh, wow. What
Oh,
made
yeah.
you move?
Well, I got a divorce and couldn't afford to buy my house back anymore. I had bought it in '86
Mm-hmm.
for $210,000.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah.
It did well enough in selling it, but I didn't need that much house anymore. I'm 70 years old and just didn't need that much house anymore. How long have you been in Palo Alto?
About 15 years.
That's a long time. That's a good long time.
Yeah. No, we like it. We were in Cupertino before, but Palo Alto is more fun. Where are you now, Robert?
Better what?
Where do you live now?
I live in Livermore.
Okay.
Yeah. I needed to stay in the Bay Area, but as I said, I'm now 70, retired, needed to downsize my lifestyle. And this is the last outreach of the Bay Area before you go over the hill and you're into the Central Valley.
Yeah.
Not
bad.
Yeah.
Good evening, Michael. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you. Good to be here. Hello, Stans. Welcome back home.
Hi, Barbara.
Yep.
Cecilia and Lee.
Cecilia, are you in Italy yet?
Pretty soon, July 2nd.
Okay, that's soon.
A week from this coming Saturday.
Yeah, because I was wondering if you were in Italy, this would not be a good time.
No.
Yeah, it would be like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Seems above and beyond the Call of Duty, Cecilia.
It's been known to happen.
Well, we have our guest speaker, Robert Freeman, with us here, but we'll give this a few more minutes until we see how many more people come in. Nice to see you this evening, Barbara and Lee.
Good evening. The Rotary International Convention was so wonderful. I met so
Oh.
many great people doing great projects. It was really a great experience.
Where was it?
Houston, Texas.
Oh,
So I went to the Space Center,
uh-huh.
which was
Excellent.
fun. The host committee had us attend the Astros game against the Mariners. It was the second of three that determined their positioning going forward. And they won, so that was a fun game.
Yeah, good.
Evening, Flo. It's nice to see you join us.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Pat.
Hi, Lee.
Are we celebrating the holiday today?
Juneteenth.
Oh, that's right. It's that's it.
Yeah,
Bank,
I didn't have to work today. Yay.
bank was closed. Yeah, no mail. Yeah. And the big Warriors parade. Oh my goodness, did you see that on TV?
I'm
Millions,
working all day at home here.
thousands of people. Oh, Cecilia, where are you?
I'm in Sacramento until Friday, then I'm in San Jose, then I'm in Italy
You're
next.
going back to Italy? Yeah. Oh, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Oh. Italy, good for you. What an adventuresome woman you are.
That is pretty adventurous. So where in Italy, Cecilia?
No place that any tourists ever go.
Ah,
It's actually, it's a town called Castel Bordino, and it's south of Pescara on the east coast of Italy, directly across the mountains from Rome.
Oh,
I didn't get into the mountains to see you, or your place, but I was very close. We stopped in that port and I swam in the ocean, and it was part of an overseas adventure travel tour that took a boat down the west coast to Sicily and over to Malta and then back up the east coast, ending in Venice. It was spectacular.
Oh yeah.
wow.
I mean, there's almost not an awful place in Italy. I'm sure there are some, but it's just spectacular. The scenery is great. I mean, over there, it's not, of course, it's not very touristy, and there are beautiful, beautiful beaches over there. And so, and still in some places a little more traditional than like up in the industrial north. So it's great.
are you working? Are you teaching? Or
Well, when I get back, I cannot work on the kind of visa that I have. But I am going to do a course. I'll be doing a lot of volunteer stuff. Like one of the things I'll be doing is teaching English to adults at the public library, which is 2 doors down from where my apartment is. And so,
oh, good for you.
yeah.
Going back to Africa, you were so happy there, and then you got sent home.
And I got sent home. I mean, well, I will go. Actually, I'm in the middle of my second grant application for that community, and I need to get over there for a lot of reasons, including mainly COVID. That's been a near impossibility until more recently, And
Yeah.
so- and it's a not. I think it's a fairly stable country politically, but there are definitely problems there, and you have to be careful.
Is your Peace Corps time up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Peace Corps isn't even back in there yet. They're just now putting people in the field, but mostly in other countries. And so they have to be invited back. It has to be a safe enough environment to put volunteers in there. And so, so I don't know yet what the reason is, but I know that they're not yet recruiting for Ethiopia.
Okay.
And you know, time marches on.
Yes, yes.
I'm not getting any younger. So,
Well, I want to be respectful to others' time here. It's a little bit past 5 minutes past the hour. I wanted to say hi to Peggy and to Wendy who've joined us. We've got a dozen people on the call here. We have our speaker, Robert Freeman, with us, but before we invite him, I did want to share a few brief announcements with the team. You'll have seen them in the agenda, but I think it's a long shot, but it's a possibility. I wanted to let the folks know that our partners from the Rotary Club of Milwaukee are announcing a trip to the Guatemala Highlands to visit past, current, and future Rotary-sponsored infrastructure projects. Mike Paddock, fellow Rotarian, UN site recovery expert, Guatemala advisor, author, and more will lead the trip. And they'll be there mid-August, returning August 21st. And the thing that's the timing of it is they're Milwaukee based, but they're taking deposits on the trip by June 30th. So we're out of position for it, but I wanted to make sure that people were aware of it. And you can see an interesting flyer about the trip and where they're going. And I thought it might be particularly interesting to someone like Mike Reynolds, who's working in that area as well. Another announcement was we had an update from Boris Sinek from Palo Alto Bayshore suggesting clubs consider the Airbot Brighter Future Syrian Refugee Scholarship Program, and you can certainly contact him there or see the slides that he's offered. And then another item that came up was an item where Beth Ann Martin shared the opportunity to partner and promote children's literacy. She lived in Chile and worked as a Rotary Foundation International Ambassadorial Scholar and met the Biblioteca Libro Alegre and has got information about that, a link to it and a little video about it. So I just wanted to go over those announcements and share those. Oh, hi, Marty. It's nice to see you as well. You might be interested in the Guatemala trip, or at least taking a look at their flyer and where all they're going. And with that, I think unless there are questions about those, I would be inclined to just have Robert take us away here and share his screen and talk us through his work.
All right, thank you very much, Pat. I'm going to walk through the mechanics of sharing the screen. See? Okay. And can you see that?
Yeah.
And is it in the full screen mode?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me. And I want to say thank you especially to Wendy Wally from Los Altos Rotary, who commended me to this body here. I've known Wendy for more than 30 years and have been working with Los Altos Rotary since 2008. So we go back a long way. I'd like to show you just a 1-minute video. It'll give you, if it's the only thing you ever saw about the Global Uplift Project, is probably the best thing that you could see. By the way, I promised Pat I would keep this to within 25 minutes, standard service club presentation. I just hit my phone and then we're gonna make 25 minutes. So let me switch over here and play this video for you. 1 minute.
Is there supposed to be audio?
Can you not hear it?
Not for me.
no.
No, we're not carrying the audio.
Okay. I don't know why the audio wasn't working. I have to apologize. That was the 1 minute introduction. Let me do this.
Your screen said pause. Maybe you have to press play.
There are those settings when you initiate the share to allow sound and video to play. I don't know if those boxes were checked.
Well, I thank whoever it was that called it out. I don't want to try to rehash it, so let's move on. Can everybody hear me still now?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. This is the only slide where I'm going to read the words, and it's the encapsulation of what we do. who we are, how we work. The Global Uplift Project helps schools, churches, service clubs realize their aspirations to do good internationally. We do that by building small scale, low cost, high impact infrastructure projects in developing countries, classrooms, medical clinics, libraries, latrines, water wells, science labs, playground. They improve the life chances of the local people, and most importantly, they improve their capacity for self-development. We work ethically, collaboratively, transparently, and effectively. That's the only slide I'm going to read. The rest of it is more interesting, but I hope that's a good introduction to what we do. Here's how this thing got started. It was 2007 and the economy was going off into the Great Recession. Some of you may remember it. I was a teacher at Los Altos High School at the time. My children were complaining about how bad the world was. And I said to them, well, what are you going to do about it? And they very rightly said, well, Mr. Freeman, we're teenagers. What can we do? And without thinking about it, I said, you know, I bet if each of you did a little bit, I bet it would rock the world. Well, it's an easy, cheesy thing to say, isn't it? It's kind of thing you could fit on a bumper sticker. But we didn't know if it was true, but we were intrigued by the idea. I wonder if that's true. If everybody did just a little bit, could we effect a change in the world? So we decided to try it out. And in the spring of 2007, at an all-school assembly in the big gym, I told every student in the school, if you guys will all put in $1, I will get a classroom built for you in Africa. You never heard 1,700 teenagers be so quiet. There's about a 5-second, dead. And finally, somebody in the back, high up in the bleacher, says, "Can you do that, Mr. Freeman?" I said, "Don't worry, you take care of the dollar, I'll take care of the school." Well, long story short, we had 1,770 kids at the school. They put in $1,851. And I was like, OMG, now I'm on the hook. I get a classroom built in Africa. 1851 wasn't enough. So I hustled around to 4 other schools, Gunn High School in Palo Alto, where my kids went to school, St. Francis in Mountain View, 2 other schools. Same story. Let's see if we can do something big for the world. You guys, it's $1. What do you say? And we collected $9,000 from 9,000 teenagers. And in the summer of 2007, we built this classroom in Naramura, Kenya. This is the old school here. It runs down to the right 30, 40 yards, and that's the new one. You can tell the difference between your kids going to school in this one, the stone one, than the other one. And it blew our minds because nobody was into it for more than $1. We came back, showed all the kids at all the schools what we had done. And the first thing they said was, "We want to do another one," because nobody had ever gotten so much satisfaction out of $1 in their entire life. We named the company $1 for Life. We stayed with it. The essential idea is this: everybody contributes a small amount, and we use all of that money to help the poorest people in the world help themselves. Emphasis on help themselves. It is not charity. I'll show you several examples. This is what it looks like when people help themselves. This is a village in Malawi called Manyesa. Malawi is the 4th poorest country in the world. They came to us and said, "Can you help us build a classroom?" And I said, "Well, yes, I can help you build a classroom, but what are you going to do?" They said, "Well, what can we do?" I said, "Well, we have a design. We're going to make it out of bricks. We'll buy the mixing equipment, the molds, the raw material. You guys got to make the bricks." They said, "When do we start?" Those people in that village handmade 160,000 bricks. And that shows me they really wanted that classroom for their kids really, really bad. In fact, we ended up building 5 classrooms for them with all of those bricks. And it has solar on the top that runs the computer lab. You can see the solar right here runs the computer lab. It's the best classroom complex in 50 miles. Each classroom cost about $8,000, just stupid cheap. We've done 23 classrooms in Nicaragua. You can see the old one on the left and the new one on the right. That's what most of the classrooms look like, the old one, the before and the after. The one on the right is made of steel frame, sheet metal roof, concrete foundation. It'll be there for 30 years. It'll educate thousands and thousands of students. We're doing those for around $12,000 to $14,000. We've done 146 latrines in Indonesia. This is kind of a goofy story. We ran into this village, in fact, while we were building a classroom for Los Altos Rotary in 2011. And all kinds of people in the village were dying. Nobody could figure out why, except there's 30,000 people in the village. They're all pooping in the bushes since Adam and Eve. We brought in health engineers. They, walking around with meters, say, you got the highest ambient E. coli reading we've ever recorded. They were all ankle deep in their own E. coli. Well, a latrine is just a structured hole in the ground to keep the E. coli from running around. So we buy the bricks, but the local people have to build them themselves. They got to dig the pit. The engineered leach fields under the supervision of our local people cost about $250 to put one of those latrines in. It's shared in a little hamlet of 4 to 6 families. The engineers tell us in another 2 years, we'll have the E. coli out of the water supply. This is what I mean when I say it delivers dramatic improvements in the capacity of local people to help themselves when you're not dying and sick all the time from E. coli. We've done 49 projects in Nepal. This is one of my favorites, and I'll show you why. That's a classroom on the 2nd story of a building, okay? The challenge is this. How are we going to get 20,000 bricks from the floor, from the ground, up to the 2nd story so we can build a classroom? And this is how we do it. The ladies have formed a human chain up a ladder, and there you can see. Oh, can you see that? Oh, darn it.
Yes, we can.
Screen sharing has stopped as the shared window is closed. I apologize. I'm going to go back and try to revive this. Okay.
We see your screen, Robert.
You can see my screen. Can you see the whole screen?
Yeah, we got it.
Right now,
Okay.
you have the other slides over on the left side.
I know I'm not getting access to the PowerPoint full screen mode. Can you see it, however?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to just continue here. Can you see the ladies
Yes.
handing 20,000 bricks from the ground floor up that ladder, one to another, until they get upstairs? The classroom ended up so that over the life of the classroom, the full life of the classroom, the number of people it'll serve comes out to 70 cents per student per year to put a student into a classroom. 70 cents is astonishingly cheap. We've done 56 projects in Kenya because that's, of course, where we started. Most of them classrooms. That's what you see. They all look a similar kind of design, not always the same, but a similar design. We prefer classrooms because the investment today in raising a student's educational level will ripple into eternity. Literally, his children, her children, their children will continue at a higher level basically forever. We have invented a product, and the ladies will appreciate this especially. In the developing world, when girls reach puberty, if they can't manage their period, they end up dropping out of school. We've invented a kit called Save a Girl. It's washable, reusable sanitary pads that we give to the girls. They cost $6 to make. There's the ladies in Nepal sewing them. They cost $6 to make. They last for 3 years. We can keep an adolescent girl in school for $2 per girl per year. It sounds like hyperbole, but it's not. It's probably one of the highest returns on human investment in the world to keep an adolescent girl in school for $2 a year. When COVID hit 2 years ago, we converted the sewing centers, which sew the Save a Girl kits, we converted them to making COVID masks, because in the developing world, they don't have any health infrastructure. They don't have messenger RNA, vaccines and, monoclonal antibodies and all the stuff that we have here. If you get sick, here's an aspirin. You can go home and crawl up in a fetal ball and good luck to you. And so they were very panicked about people getting COVID. We made 150,000 COVID masks and we distributed them in, well, it's actually now 6 countries. We imported 4,000 of them from our factory in Nepal that makes them, and we distributed them to homeless people in the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, Santa Cruz, and Salinas. They cost about 30 cents to make. We've created this thing called a science lab in a box. Most science in the developing world is a guy on a blackboard, and it's a blackboard with chalk, writing the formulas for titration of alcohol or something, but they don't have any lab equipment because they have no lab equipment. The science lab in a box provides all the equipment, the supplies, the instruments, and the curriculum to allow world-class level laboratory work in biology, chemistry, and physics. We've got 4 of them installed right now, 3 in Nepal, 1 in Kenya, and we think the demand is effectively infinite. It allows, again, developing world people to be able to do world-class experimentation. Of course, the equipment itself is usable for dozens or hundreds of other experiments besides the ones that come into curriculum. Altogether, we've completed 234 of these small-scale, high-impact projects in 22 of the developing countries in the world. Like you can see, classrooms, medical clinics, water wells, science labs, libraries. They have 2 things in common. They are all funded by many, 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 many people making small donations. And that's the model. And every single one of them raises the life chances, the capacity for self-development among the poorest people in the world. So what? Since 2007, when we started this thing, in what was completely serendipity, as I explained, we've helped more than 700,000 people. The poorest people in the world have just a slightly better chance in life. Over the useful life of the projects we've already completed, they will help 1.5 million people. Again, from donations that are sometimes as small as $1. And we're completing now a new project somewhere in the world every 5 days. 2 words, it's working. This is a slide that's super important, as the title says. Look at the section down here where it says use. See that? And see operations? That's what it cost to run the company last year. $50,584. That's literature, phones, website, travel, software subscriptions, professional services fees like CPAs. That's everything to keep the lights on and run the company. However, look at this section up here, sources. See foundations? We've gone to foundations, raised money on the explicit agreement that will cover our operating costs. In other words, all of our operating costs are covered by money from foundations, and therefore, every dollar donated by an individual, a church, a service club, anybody, every dollar donated by a non-foundation source goes into their intended projects. It's actually $1.09, as you can see from the numbers there. We don't know anybody else in the world who's doing this. Let me show you some specific projects because it gets pretty interesting when you get down to the specific project level. Here's a library that we helped build in Masai Mara High School in Kenya last year. We worked with Walnut Creek Rotary and we worked with Los Altos Rotary through the Olive Seed Foundation. And it cost $2,000 to populate all the books there in the library. All of the national curriculum, as well as international, stuff that was defined by the faculty. They've got the best library in 100 square miles there, by far. In fact, it's almost the only library. This is one of the first projects we ever did with Los Altos Rotary Club, and we did it with the Bon Rotary Club in Indonesia on the other end. That is, they had a big tsunami in Indonesia, wiped out the school. We rebuilt the school here, and it cost $8,000. I was there, 3, 4, 5 years ago. They've now got 5 classrooms. We did 2. They've now got 5, and it's just a thriving hive of a classroom that would not have existed had Los Altos Rotary not stepped up and helped fund it. We have produced our Save a Girl kits and delivered them. We produced them in Kenya, but delivered them across the border into Tanzania, funded by the Belmont Rotary Club. Just this week, we are opening our own organic sewing center in Tanzania to be able to provide the kits domestically without having to import them from Kenya. This is one of my favorite projects ever. In Nepal, we build these birthing centers. Nepal has one of the highest rates of maternal neonatal mortality in the world. Maternal neonatal mortality is when women die in childbirth. It's beyond catastrophic because the mother is typically older. She may have 5 or 6 kids. She may be the aunt to 20 or 30 or more kids in her village. It's super easy to prevent this. We provide modern equipment, sanitary environment, and a trained midwife. According to the Nepal Ministry of Health, we're reducing the number of women dying in childbirth by 90%. This club in North Carolina heard about us. They said, hey, we'd like to help. What can we do? I said, how many people in your town? They said, well, we got 7,000 people. So, okay, well, how are you going to raise the money? These people were so enterprising. I loved it the most. They took a cardboard box and put one on the counter of every business in town, the bakery, the office supply store, the hardware store, the auto parts store, and everybody came in and it was roundup. You know what I'm talking about. If your bill comes to $4.51, you put the next 49 cents in the box. Took them 3 weeks and they raised the $6,000 to build that medical clinic right there. I don't have the plaque to show you, but outside it says, thank you to the people of Brevard, North Carolina. It was exactly what our model is. Everybody gives just a little bit. We just finished this water project at the Kiahuko school in Kenya. The water's half a mile away, but it's on the other side of the road. So to get to the water main, we had to cut the road, dig half a mile of trenches, put half a mile of 6-inch piping and 2 storage tanks there. And we're also collecting the runoff water from the roof. You know, without water, the kids were spending tens of thousands of hours per year with a bucket on top of their head, walking the half mile back and forth to bring water to the school. Now they don't have to do that. We've liberated tens of thousands of student hours for $4,000. That was funded by Granite Bay Sacramento Rotary. The most important and the exciting thing that we're doing is this thing we call the 6 C's, clusters of clubs collaborating to create catalytic change. You can see the red square there as a project. It might be one of the water projects or a classroom or whatever. And then clusters of clubs who come together to build that thing. I'll show you why it's so exciting. This is a classroom we built for Santa Cruz Rotary, 3 clubs, Rotary clubs in Santa Cruz Rotary, Santa Cruz Sunrise Rotary, and Capitola Rotary, and their respective Interact clubs. On the left is the old classroom, in a little village called La Patilla. On the right is the new classroom, before and after. The reason this is exciting is because take the 6 entities there, 3 Rotary clubs, 3 Interact clubs, cost $13,000. Each club only had to put in about $2,000. And look at what we've got there. Everybody's over the moon about it. The superintendent of schools, Chris Monroe, wrote an article, said, I've never been prouder to be a Rotarian. But let's see when we expand that concept even further. We work with Kiwanis clubs. There's a division called Division 44. It's up in the Sacramento area, Sacramento, Roseville, Auburn area. They came to us and said, we'd like to do something. I said, what would you like to do? They said, we'd like to build a classroom. I said, how many clubs you got? We got 15 clubs. Well, you can do the math in your head. There it is, $14,000, 15 clubs. Each club only had to put in $900. And we've got this beautiful after here. That's the before. That's the legitimate before. It's a shipping container. It's the back end of an 18-wheel truck. They had 42 students in that thing trying to go to school. They couldn't do it. But for $900 per club, now we've got this one here. Let's take it to an even greater level. We just finished one. This is one we finished 2 weeks ago in Kenya for a Kiwanis Region 16. In Kiwanis, a region is 3 divisions. So if a division has 10 to 15 clubs, a region is going to have 30 to 45 clubs. And this region is up Davis, Sacramento, Stockton, you know, kind of the northeast arc of the Delta. 35 clubs. The classroom costs $16,000. You can do the math in your head. Each club only had to put in $500. And this is, again, this is the before and after. This is the literal before. That's the classroom they had before. That's the one we finished 2 weeks ago. This is the model. small scale, low cost, high impact projects where every dollar, every single dollar goes into the project, improves the life capacity for local people. And we ask ourselves, why does this work? Why is this working like it is? It's because we're bigger when we help others, aren't we? Somebody asked Abraham Lincoln one time, who's the biggest man you ever saw? And Lincoln said, the biggest man I ever saw was one who stooped to help a child. And don't we get that? You don't have to have that explained. And we're stronger when we work together. And no one person has to do too much. On the outbound side, it's not charity, it's a helping hand. We require a minimum of 20% from the local people in order to do any project. And it releases a profound human energy, that is the desire for self-betterment. And it provides an enormous boost to the local capacity for self-development. Excuse me. All right, we're on the downhill path here. It is within our reach to materially improve the human condition. I'm talking evolutionary scale improvements in the capacity of the human species to take care of itself, using these kinds of simple solutions that are working and are effective now. See the ugly guy there? You know the guy I'm talking about, the guy in the red shirt. That's me. I'm in Kenya. It's 2007. That's the first class. That was the first classroom I ever built, the one I showed you at the very start of the presentation. This guy in the dreadlocks comes up to me and he says, how did you get this school built? You must realize I was gobsmacked. I was speechless because I wasn't expecting that to be coming out of this guy's mouth. But Kenya had been a colony of the British, and the British used to send enterprising people to London every year to learn technical skills, engineering, accounting, medicine, so they could come back and help run the country. Well, after I unscrambled my brain, how did you get this school built? I managed to stammer out, well, I just went around and asked 9,000 people for $1. And I was a little chagrined to say it. But this guy was way smarter than me. He thinks about it for about 2 seconds. And he says, ah, yes, even the greatest waterfall starts with a single drop of water. And I was just blown away. I was speechless. He had epitomized with a really wise saying exactly what we had done. I had started a rainfall and collected 9,000 drops that built that classroom that'll change that village forever. And from that moment on, we've adopted this as our motto. Ladies and gentlemen, you are one of these drops. And I invite you to join our tsunami of goodwill that's hopefully changing the world. That's the presentation. Pat, I'm at 24 minutes and 41 seconds.
That's great, Robert. If you can stop sharing, why don't we open it up to questions from the audience here? And
I will do that. I hope this is interesting.
How do we join your group? What are the steps we should take?
Oh, is it Flo?
Yes, Sunnyvale Rotary.
Flo?
Yes.
There's a couple of things we can do. And I'm going to ask Wendy Wally to mention a word about her experience with this program over 10 years. We've done more than 12 projects with Los Altos Rotary. We can help your club. If your club would like to do a project, I would work with you and we pick one out. What area? Is it education? Is it sanitation? Is it vocation? You know, how much do you want to spend? 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. And we decide on a project and we execute that for you. We give you complete recording of every single penny dispatched on the project. And we build a web page for your club on our website where your members can log in, and every single day they can say, oh, look what's happening with our project today. And they see the bricks going in. It's really, really exciting. Or the 6C idea I mentioned, clusters of clubs. If 5170 wanted to come together, I'm certain that for less than $1,000 per club, we could build you a very nice classroom in Africa. That's the model we're really moving to, trying to get more and more people in. So the burden on any one person is less and less and less. And yet you're still a full-fledged parent in that project. So I would be happy to come to your club and speak, you know, once we've decided we're doing a project, and it's off to the races from there. Flo, did I answer your question? I want to be sure I did.
Thank you. You certainly did.
You're welcome. You can tell I used to be a teacher because I checked for understanding.
And the contact information is here in your email that you sent last week.
I will send a follow-up to Pat, and I'll ask him to forward it to all of you. But I thank you for your question. It's a good, it's the logical question. Who else has a question? Somebody's got to have a question.
I have a question. Robert, thank you so much for a great presentation. I believe our Santa Cruz Sunrise Club has already supported your projects. Mary Alsip was your
She was it.
big proponent in our club. Yes.
She is a mover and a shaker.
Oh, yes. When Mary speaks in our club, people listen and obey. We all obey Mary. So I have questions more about how the structure of how do you choose what's a good project? How do you know where to do it, and accountability to make sure it gets done the way it's supposed to get done? You know, what's the structure for that?
And sustainability.
That is the right question, Peggy. The way we do it is this. We have on the ground people in each of the 22 countries where we work, and they understand as long as they deliver on time, in budget, at standard, we're going to keep bringing them more projects. So you'll remember when we did the La Patilla School back in 3 years ago for the Santa Cruz clubs, that was about the 19th classroom we built in Nicaragua. We've now completed more than 23, but they have accountability because they don't want to derail the gravy train. We are the primary source of income for a lot of our partners on the ground. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And
How do
they
you
know.
how do you find those partners to get it going so that, you know, so that it goes well in the first place?
Oh man, that's a real story. I got to go back to the first project we ever did. Now remember, there I was, I'm a high school teacher at Los Altos High School, and I promised my kids I'll get them a classroom built in Africa. Now, I can find Africa on a map. But I've never built a school, and I've certainly never built a school in Africa. And so I started hustling around to everybody I know and said, do you know anybody in Africa? Do you know anybody in Africa? I eventually found somebody who said, yeah, we went on a safari a few years ago in Africa, and our tour guide, his name is Mathoga. I said, give me his name. We start a fax dialogue, and I say to Mathoga, I'd like to get a school built. Can you help me? And he says, well, I can't help you, but I know who could. You need to talk to Karuku. I said, give me Karuku's name. And I started dialogue with Karuku, okay? And this is through faxes. This is in 2007. I say to Mr. Karuku, I'd like to get a classroom built. Can you help me? He says, I can help you. I said, okay, well, why don't you give me a design? 1 week later, there's a beautiful design comes in. I'm like, wow. I say, well, give me a budget. 1 week later, there's a really detailed budget. I say, well, give me a bill of materials. Bam. And I'm saying, whoever this guy is on the other end of this thing, he knows what he's doing. And I'm on the hook to get a classroom. And I don't have anybody else in Africa who knows what. So I say to Karuku this, I say, okay, Mr. Karuku, here's what we're going to do. And we actually write out a contract like this. I'm going to send you $1,000 in the wire. You put in the foundation, send me the pictures, and I'll send you the next 3,000 for the walls. Well, of course, 2 weeks later, there's the pictures of the foundation, beautiful engineered foundation. I send them the 3,000. 2 weeks later, there's the pictures of the walls. These two elements became our method. The first method is somebody who knows somebody. And you have to realize this. We get tons of requests every week over the transom. Hey, we'd like to build a rabbit farm in Uganda. We'll sell the meats, wear the pelts, you know. We don't take any unsolicited partnership proposals. It's always got to be somebody who has referred us to them, because in that process, the person who is going to do the work has a duty to perform to the person who recommended them. And then once we have our own relationship, we'll take care of that. The second thing is a payment for percentage of progress completed. Every contract comes in 5 stages, you know, as a share of the cost. Now, because of these 2 elements, we've dispatched more than $1 million in the last 15 years, and we've never lost 1 penny. Peggy, did I answer your question?
I believe so. It sounds like you have a chain of relationships where there's accountability, and then you're seeing as it goes along so that there's incentive. So you're getting
Absolutely.
enough to do. It's different 5 stages. Yes. Okay.
Let me elaborate in a little more abstract by saying this. When I came back from that first classroom in Kenya in 2007, that was funded by the 9,000 teenagers giving $1. It's not too hard to say to yourself, wow, what if I could get every teenager in the country to give $1? And it doesn't take more than 30 seconds on Google to find out that there's 16 million high school students in America, 16 million. Well, you can do the math. We had just built the classroom for 9,000. Gee, if I could get every high school student to donate $1, I could build 1,500 classrooms a year for $1. And so, flush with grand ambitions, we started building an infrastructure that's amazingly robust and scalable. We can now complete a classroom in any of the countries where we work with about 4.5 hours of headquarter time. That's receiving the proposal, reviewing the proposal, writing the contract, you know, the payments for percentage of completion, you know, satisfaction, communication to the client. 4.5 hours, we can get a classroom completed. And I'm going to ask Wendy to pipe in here sooner than later, I hope, and say, what's the experience on the Rotary side, working with this, and seeing the transparency and the diligence in getting things completed. But Peggy, I want to be sure, did I answer your question to your satisfaction?
Yeah, well, yes, and I have more questions, but maybe Wendy will.
You go ahead. Wendy, what do you have to say? How's this working for Los Altos Rotary?
Well, the relationship started before I joined Rotary about 6 years ago. Robert was working with one of our, now unfortunately he passed away, one of our former presidents, Alan Varney, to build classroom in Haiti. So the club has been working with Robert for considerably longer. The reason he and I have known each other for 30 years is we both worked at 3Com, if anybody even remembers what that company was.
Back in the 80s.
Yeah, it was a networking company. One of the first, actually the man who invented Ethernet started the company. In any case, Robert and I worked in different parts of marketing, and then he went his way and I stayed for another 10 years. In any case, the more recent projects that we've worked with Robert are through Save a Girl, where they were talking about the sanitary kits. And we've now done that in Nepal, Kenya. Have we done one in Uganda?
It was Ivory Coast.
Okay, we've done one at the Karat School.
That's right.
In Cote d'Ivoire. We've done one, I think we're starting to support you in your new Tanzania.
That's right.
Growing center.
That's exactly right.
And our most recent kit distribution was in Dharamshala, India.
That's right.
So we've worked with all of those projects, and each part of a different part of the world came together and sent the kits to the next country wherever we agreed to help distribute. And we work with a Rotary Club on the ground. We worked with the Dharamshala India Club, and they have distributed, I think, 300 maybe out of 400 kits.
Yeah.
And because there were some medical personnel in their club, they used 1 or 2 of these folks to actually help train the girls as they were receiving the kits, so that they understood what to do and how to take care of themselves.
Wendy, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Peggy, should we go back to you, or would anybody else like to ask a question?
Yeah, so as far as the accountability, do you have full-time staff that are at work on the ground in the countries, organizing and implementing it?
Absolutely do. And in fact, what I'm going to do is, you probably didn't see, you may or may not have seen this in the La Patilla classroom we built for your club in Nicaragua. But when we hang up, I'm going to forward to Pat what we call a project detail. And it breaks down what is the need, what is the solution, what is the cost, what is the schedule. I mean, the cost is broken down to how many 6-penny nails, how many 10-penny nails, you know, how much of this grade of gravel versus that grade of gravel. Very, very meticulous. And we've trained all of our people, and they understand that they have to deliver this level of documentation because we have to deliver this level of documentation. I cannot come to you and ask for $10,000 if I can't document where every single penny is going.
Right.
And so we've trained the people on the ground to do this, and they do it now, and it's very routine. And like I said, we've got it down to where with 4.5 hours of headquarters work, start to finish, we can get a classroom built.
Interesting. About how many staff do you have working for the NGO?
You mean for the Global Uplift Project?
Yes.
There's me, and there's 2 volunteers.
Okay.
One volunteer in Los Altos, Brenda Birrell, she heads up the Save a Girl program, and one volunteer in Boulder, Colorado. That's all that there is. That's why our expenses are so low. Yeah.
Okay. And then in the country, you have people working full-time to organize, or?
We don't have, there's no Global Uplift Project people in country.
Okay.
We contract with our NGO partners on the ground. We write a contract for every single project. And the contract stipulates you'll do this and this and this. And when that's done, we'll send you this amount of money. And that's the process.
Okay.
So those people are contractors.
And so are they working for other NGOs, or are they
Yes.
volunteering, or, okay. So
They
you're
work for
doing-
NGOs that have a long track record of competence and experience and accomplishment in the areas that we work. For
Okay.
example, in Nicaragua, our partners, the only thing they do is build classrooms. It's called Seeds of Learning. They built more than 150 classrooms in Nicaragua. That's the kind of partner you want. Somebody who's the best in the world at what you need them to do. So,
Okay,
yeah.
good. It's becoming clearer now. Thank you.
Hey, if you happen to see Mary, would you tell her I said hi?
I will.
And if you happen to see Chris Monroe from Santa Cruz Rotary, please tell her I said hi also. She pinged me a couple of months ago, but nothing ever came of it. Thank you for your intelligent questions.
Thank you. Thank you for answering.
Who else has a question?
Did I see another question from Han Lin?
Yes. So Robert, how long does it take to build a classroom? And if I seen the presentation, is it $8,000 for the classroom?
Han, each classroom is different. It's pretty quick. It's very, very quick. We tell our partners, keep one on the shelf, because when this one is done, if you don't have one ready, I'm going to another country. And so they've all keep a standard design, and we use pretty much standard designs for each country because it reduces the cost. You don't have to redesign it each time. The workmen know exactly how to redo it. You might have noticed this. I showed you 3 different classrooms in Nicaragua that we had built: the La Patilla, the La Quebradita, and I can't remember the other one, but they're all exactly the same design. So when the workmen come out, they know what to do. So to answer your question directly, anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. We're very, very fast. In the case, for example, of the Granite Bay Rotary, I showed you a case study there where we did a water project for them. They sent us the check. 22 days later, the project was completed because our people are ready to go. They know, look, get ready to go, break ground, go, go, go. And so, and some projects are harder, more complex than others. You might have noticed the different designs in Kenya, which are cut stone, versus in Nicaragua, which is steel, steel frame. The steel frame goes up very much quicker than the cut stone does. So we can finish a classroom. Well, we can finish a Nicaragua design classroom. We're building them now in Guatemala in about 6 to 8 weeks. In the case of the ones in Kenya made of cut stone, it's more like 8 to 10 weeks, but it's never much more than that. People are always startled about when it's already finished. Han, did I answer your question?
Yes, and I do have another question.
Please.
Do you have time for? Okay.
I have all the time you
So
need.
you turn the classroom. Thank you. You turn the classrooms over.
Yeah.
Do you know how they get the fund for desk, chairs, and whatever's needed in the classroom?
That's a really good question. Yes, we do. And we always make sure that that's documented and provided for beforehand. I'll give you the greatest example. Remember that classroom I showed you in Malawi where they handmade 160,000 bricks? This was actually a pretty funny interaction. They say to me, as I said, can you help us build a classroom? And I said, yeah, I can help you, but what are you going to do? And then I say to them, oh, by the way, where's your teacher? And they got kind of a blank look on their face. And I say, yeah, you're going to need a teacher. And so we hustled around. We figured out that they could send somebody from their village, a high school graduate from somewhere who'd come to their village, send them off to the National Teachers College for 1 year. And for $600, they would be trained and certified as a teacher. Well, I was at Los Altos High School at the time. We had 120 teachers on staff. I went around and put the clamp on every single teacher, said, I need $5 because I got a classroom in Malawi where they don't have a teacher and we've got to send the teacher to National Teachers College. We funded the teacher. Now they've got 12 teachers. I said, we built 5 classrooms for them and we've done that. We've got 12 teachers now. Most national governments are happy to provide teacher salaries and, fungibles because those are very low cost. What they can't do is they can't come up with the $15,000 to build the capital project itself. That's the big thing that's hard for them to get done. So we make sure every single school has an operating governance structure, that the project is approved by local and federal authorities, federal to the extent that they have national governments that have to weigh in on these things. We make sure all of that is done before we ever put a single penny into it. Han, did I answer your question?
Yes. And would you put your email in the chat so I can contact you later to invite you to come and speak to our club?
I will be happily come to speak to your club. You're in Milpitas?
Yes.
Han?
Yes.
You're in Milpitas. Chat, I see there's 2 chats there. I will put that in there. And I'm going to, by the way, I will again send more details to Pat. And I hope he'll send it out to everybody on how to contact me. And I'll happily.
That would be great.
I spoke at Milpitas Kiwanis Club about 2 months ago. And they were part of a Division 12 in San Jose, which we built a classroom for them in Nicaragua at a school called Luz de Cristo. And we finished that about 6 months ago. Again, 15 clubs, $14,000. No club had to put in more than $1,000.
Yes.
Han, would you be okay if I'm not so adept on the chat, I'm not seeing it, but I will make sure that Pat has the contact information. Hopefully he'll send it out to everybody else. Pat, I'd like to send you one other thing, and that is we have a single document with 1-inch thumbnails, pictures of all 234 of the projects we've ever built. It's really impressive because it really shows that this is actually for real. This isn't just a pipe dream. May I send that to you when I send my contact information?
Sure. Yeah, we'll follow up and get these supporting materials out to people, Robert. Thank you very much. We're bumping up against the end of our scheduled hour here. I want to thank you again for showing us this, what I find is a very intriguing and innovative kind of an approach that I was actually unfamiliar with. And I think Peggy and Han and others have kind of pulled the thread on this to allow us to understand better how you work and how you structure these. And so I think this has been very useful and very helpful from my perspective.
Thank you.
I know there's just a few minutes more, but are there a few more questions from the audience? I certainly don't want to cut it off. Go ahead, Peggy.
Yeah, do you ever have trips? I'm bringing people to, it look like you visited the projects. Do you ever have trips where others who sponsored it visit the projects?
You know, when we started out, you got to imagine, I'm a high school teacher, and the first thing I did was I took 10 kids with me to Kenya, and we did the, roll up your sleeves and help get this thing finished. And the kids come back and their eyes are like silver dollars because they've gone from one end of affluence on the planet to the other end of destitution, and it's mind blowing. And we've done that every year until COVID. When COVID hit, we could not take any kids anymore. And so we have not revived that. By the way, when I started the thing, I called it $1 for life because it was all literally $1. But when COVID hit, our school revenues dried up and we had to reconceive it. And that's why I went out and now start to work with service clubs. And when we went to service clubs, we changed the name to the Global Uplift Project because many people told us $1 seemed like a scam. It just didn't seem plausible. You know what I mean? Although we had built more than 100 projects from $1. Anyway, we changed the name in 2020 to the Global Uplift Project. But the short answer to your question is, yes, we do clubs, trips, but we haven't done any in the last 2 years. We would like to revive it as soon as the environment on the ground is convivial. I'll tell you, on March 16th, 2020, I was in SFO getting ready to get on a British Airways flight to London, connecting to Nairobi. And they said, we can't let you on the plane, Mr. Freeman. They've shut off the incoming on the other end in Nairobi because of COVID.
Wow.
So, oh yeah, it was that dramatic. So I came back home and I haven't been out since, and I'm scheduled to go.
It was March 17th in Nairobi at that time, the next day.
Yeah.
And that was March 17th. It was the day we shut down everything.
Oh, is it? Then you know exactly what I'm talking about.
That's yeah, I guess. That's what we shut down here, but maybe they were earlier.
Well,
anyway, yeah.
Again, well, see, we were having a virulent outbreak here and they were panicked. They did not want any Americans bringing COVID into their country.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So anyway, we do trips. It's unbelievable. One of the best trips we ever took, a girl went with us, went down to Nicaragua, came back and said to me, Mr. Freeman, they have nothing, but they're so happy. She said, I went through my closet, gave away half my clothes. And it was such an epiphany for her to realize, and how pampered her life was, but in some sense, how meaningless it was compared to what she saw, down there from people who have nothing but were more happy than she was.
They are rich in relationships.
Oh man, they have their communities, they have their families, they have their church, they've got relationships.
Close knit, yeah.
And we've got packed closets.
Garages.
Well, I want to be sensitive to the time here, and thank you again, Robert, very much. So when you get me that material, we'll share that out with the crowd. Somebody asked about whether we'll share the recording out. We will. Certainly appreciate everybody stopping by for this, and Robert, you for taking us through it. So any other things here as we sign off?
I appreciate your having me. I'm going to sign off, Pat. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thanks so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night, all.